Hi everybody, I'm Jeff Johnson on Clerk TV. Today we're talking to the Clerk of Superior Court in Hart County, Mr. Frankie Gray. Frankie, how you doing?
Hey, how you doing?
It's great to see you.
Great to see you.
Now listen, when we came in first off, we were talking about where you live. You live near beautiful Lake Hartwell.
Oh yes, 962 miles of Lake Hartwell. It's a beautiful lake.
Oh, I mean, every time I go over it, I'm going, one of these days I've got to go there and get on the lake, do some fishing or whatever. Now tell me, you were brought up right around that lake,
Born
right?
and raised around the lake, probably a mile from the lake.
No kidding.
We fished it, was on boats, jet skis, never owned a lake house, but we always was on the lake.
But you know what, heck, you were, like you said, you saw that lake grow up from where it is.
Yes, beautiful, beautiful homes on that lake now. We have people from up north, Atlanta, from all over come in and buy homes there, and there's some beautiful homes. And when you drive up in the driveways, you see the back of them. But if you go by lake and look, the fronts are beautiful.
Oh,
They're
see,
beautiful.
that is what is incredible. Now, you've been clerk for how long in Harley?
I'm in my 8th year, second term.
What got you into this in the beginning? Because you were a policeman.
Yes, sir.
For a law enforcement for a long time. Why did you decide to try to do a clerk all those many years ago?
I grew up in Hart County, loved history, spent 18 years in law enforcement, was the DARE instructor in the school system, loved that job.
Yeah.
But I became an investigator with our sheriff in Hart County and ended up working child cases, and it put me in the courtroom a lot. And I would sit there during trials and I would look at Bill Holland, who's the past clerk who retired, and I said, man, I'd love to have his job. You know, this would be a good job because I'd get in the courtroom more.
Right.
And I love being in there. I love to see the lawyers kind of butt heads and go at it, and you know, how they prepared their cases in front of juries. And so lo and behold, you know, I didn't think much about running against Bill. But several months later, it was coming up for an election in '08, and Bill called me to his office, and he said, I'm retiring, and we want you to run.
Wow.
And so I thought to myself first, there's no way I can get elected. I've been a police officer for 18 years, a deputy sheriff.
Right.
I've arrested a lot of people. It's just not going to happen. And so I had a lot of friends, a lot of attorneys, friends, different professionals just called me and said, hey, you need to try this. You need to give it a shot. If you want to do this, we'll back you. And so I talked myself into it, and about 30 days later, I talked myself out of it. And so at the urging of some friends, Bill Holland and his staff, I ran for it and won it. By the grace of God.
Yeah. You've been in office now for how many years? You said
8 years.
8 years. What are some of the accomplishments that you've done for the citizens of Hartwell County that you are proud of?
Enhancement of technology.
That's a big thing in the clerk's world, isn't it?
It is, and it's growing every day. And I just ran a thank you letter a couple weeks ago in our paper for the election. Ran unopposed going into my 3rd term. And as I went around to the staff and asked for things that I've done or we have done as a staff to improve the office, and after I compiled the list, I was amazed. I didn't think I'd done that much. And it was amazing to look at the list and thought, wow, you did all this. You know, you and this staff did all this. And I'm just proud of it. Proud of the staff I have. I have 5 great ladies, wonderful ladies, and they do a great job for the citizens of Hart County.
I love how you speak because you talk in we.
Yes.
So you couldn't do it by yourself, could you?
No, I went in the door thinking I can do this.
Right.
And I quickly realized, no, you can't do this.
Oh, I couldn't even imagine.
And I tell them all the time I couldn't do it without them. And I don't think there's a clerk's office in the state of Georgia that could do it with one clerk. There's no way. And I'm proud of what they do, and the citizens of Hart County should be proud of what they do.
Service is all, I mean, that's what you're all about. That's what
is.
the clerk's office is about. Kind of talk a little bit about the kind of service you give your citizens.
Well, just courteous, friendly service, day and night. I have went back after hours to help attorneys, just pro se people in general. But that's the first day I went in the door. That's the first thing I said is, hey, You know, they don't care what you tell them. It's how you tell them.
No question.
Yeah, and that's a motto I've lived by. And a platform I ran on is working for you is what I do, and that's been my platform. And you know, that's something I instilled in the staff, and the staff bought into it. And that's what we do. I mean, when you walk in the door, we take care of you. If you call on the phone, we take care of you. And that's what people. We're in a small county. Sure. We're 25,200 population. But we're a rural county, and people expect courteous service.
Yes.
And that's something we strive to give them.
So you have been there for all those many years. You've been in law enforcement. A lot of people know you from the business side.
Yes.
Okay, let's learn a little bit about you from your side, the human side.
Okay.
What are some of your hobbies?
Harley Davidson.
Oh, so that's it. I got one Harley. I mean, and my one hobby is Harley Davidson.
Harley Davidson.
How long have you been riding?
I grew up on a motorcycle all my life. And have a Harley, and when I want some me time, I get on the Harley and I go ride.
So how far would you ride? Like, say it's time for me. How far do you go, and where do you go?
I don't go long trips. I'll go ride around Hart County. I'll just stay in the county.
There's
ride
a lot around Hart County.
A lot around Hart County.
Yeah, it is.
And just get out and ride. It's just me and the bike, and that's one hobby I have. I love to read. Love Southern Living magazines, believe it or not. I'll tell that side of me.
There's a couple good magazines. I like Southern Living too, and there's a couple of others. But we can talk about that. We can talk about that off camera.
But love to read, and love to read the history of White House. I'm stuck on the White House and the Secret Service and things around the White House and the Capitol. I love to read about stuff like that.
You know what's interesting also is you've talked about history a couple times while we were sitting here. You know, the clerk's office is all about history.
Yes.
Is that something that interests you too?
Yes, yes. I had an intern a few years ago that was in college that needed to do some community service. And she actually came in, and I had some old records that were just thrown in boxes. And I wanted to get them in decade order. And so she went over, her and I went over, and we sat down and we went through and we cataloged them. We found a murder from 1898 that was typed with a typewriter. Now you think about 1898 murder typed with a typewriter. That had to be an amazing invention.
Yes,
you know.
yes.
But it was tri-folded. It looked like it was typed yesterday. And we laughed at, like, you know, who touched this last?
Yeah.
And that intrigues me, the history and the books that we read. That's one thing. We also found a document before Hart County was formed. We actually were Franklin County and Elbert County, and we were formed in 1853, but we found a document in our office from 1828, and it was a land transaction, and it had a letter seal, round seal with like a shoestring, and it was just amazing. And I've had the county attorney and several other people just intrigued by that document. And so it's locked in the safe.
Now, what did that document do?
It was a land transaction. It was a deed.
Oh,
and
okay.
it was transferring land between two parties, and it was back when it was Franklin County. But you think about it, it was, 30 years before Hart County was even formed.
Goodness.
But in the bottom of that box, there laid that document. And so I made a copy. I have a display case out as you enter my front door, and it's got some history of the clerk's office, and that document's laying there. So I'm proud of that document, proud we found it.
Oh, no question.
But a lot of history. I had a young man come by that his granddad was a sheriff back in the 30s and 40s. And he had passed away, and he inherited some pictures of him busting some moonshine stills. And he wanted to see if we could find him in the book. So I went straight to the book and found where his granddad had made some arrests back then, and the fines would be $2 and $3.
Wow.
And I noticed the man got quiet, and I looked over, and he was crying because he got to actually see where his granddad had made these cases. And so that's a proud moment.
Yes.
Because the enormous responsibility of Frankie Gray sitting on all these history records.
Yeah, you got to take
we
care
got to
of
protect.
things.
We got to protect these, and so it's an enormous responsibility.
Well, I think that you have handled it extremely well for the years that you have.
Yes.
And hopefully the good folks up there will continue the process.
Oh, I
Let's hope so.
love my job. Proud of it.
You have an opportunity right now to look right to the camera and say thank you to all of your citizens. So please, feel free.
I do. I thank the citizens of Hart County for allowing me to be in this position. As you know, I call in every Wednesday to our radio station, do a radio talk show for about 10 minutes, and I thank you, and I tell you that I'm occupying your seat, your office, and I appreciate it. I appreciate the confidence that you've instilled in me, and I'm just proud to be the clerk of Superior Court of Hart County.
Folks, this is Frankie Gray, the clerk of Superior Court in Hart County, and this is Clerk TV.